All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Play, Pause, Rewind. We are back once again for another episode. Niles, how have you been the last 2 weeks?
Oh, just dandy as always. You know me. Staying busy, watching lots of stuff, and always got time for houseplants. So
yes, of course. Yeah, you talked about that this weekend when we were hanging out.
Yes, I'm slowly becoming. Not slowly. I've become one of those friends who will talk your ear off about special types of houseplants, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, there are worse things you could talk about casually in conversation. So plants are appreciated, but
absolutely.
We are talking.
How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I guess I can talk about myself. I forgot. No, I'm good. Went to the movies this afternoon, which I'll talk about later on in the show. Had the day off today for President's Day because that's a thing in America. So yay that I got a day off. It's snowing outside for those who did not know, so that's fun. But yeah, had a pretty good weekend, good long weekend.
Nice, always good as always.
Yeah, just been chilling, playing a lot of video games, hanging out. But yeah, we're talking Peacemaker this week. Show wrapped up last week, and I think it was really good. So a little bit of a I forgot what the phrase I was going to use is. Never mind. Good
bare
show.
Bones.
Yeah, spoilers for the rest of our show. But Niles, what were your non-spoilery thoughts on Peacemaker? And as always, we'll give a warning before we jump into spoilers and plot specifics. But yeah, what do you think of Peacemaker?
You know, I'm kind of in a similar boat as you. I really enjoyed it. Like when this series was first announced, I was like, man, that's gonna be stupid. That's really dumb. I can't believe I'm gonna watch that and I'm gonna hate every moment of it. Like, I didn't have very high expectations for this series. I'll just say that,
Okay. Yeah.
Especially just because like I feel like I'm not as big of a fan of John Cena. Like I like him. He's a good guy. And whenever I do see him on screen or doing his meme stuff, he is funny. But I feel like, he is I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of got a similar air as The Rock, where he's going to be like kind of the same character every time. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but that's not like a bad thing. People play to their strengths, and I think John Cena absolutely plays to his strengths in this series. And like I was saying, it definitely was a surprise for me just how much I enjoyed it and looked forward to like the next episode, because this came out like once a week, and I was just like, where's the next one? I need the next one. I need to know what happens.
Yeah, I a little like early on when it was first announced, I think at this point my trust is just in James Gunn in the superhero genre, at least, because it's like I remember when Guardians of the Galaxy was announced, everybody was like, who the fuck cares about these characters? And I will credit myself by saying I always had faith. I knew it was going to be great. I read the like summary thing, and it was like a talking raccoon and a tree, and they're like bounty hunters or something in space. I'm like, this is gonna be great. Why are y'all upset about this? And it was great. And so was Guardians 2, and so it's the Suicide Squad. The trailer for this I didn't think looked good though, so I was a little worried. But the show's great. It's a sequel to and it's part of the DC universe. However, much continuity they're really caring about. It is part of that. It is I would say a direct sequel to the Suicide Squad from last year.
Absolutely.
That James Gunn also wrote and directed. And it carries that tone. It follows Christopher Smith, the Peacemaker, in his adventures after that movie. As you might know from the post credits, he survived having a building fall on him.
He got shot through the throat and a building fell on him, and he survived. What the fuck?
And I mean, in the superhero genre, that is the least bullshit thing that's ever happened. In a movie where they fight a giant starfish kaiju, a man surviving a building falling on him is like, it seems fair.
I'll give it a pass. Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah. But the series, as you mentioned, stars John Cena. It also stars Danielle Brooks, Freddie Stroma, Chukwudi Iwuji. I apologize for that pronunciation, but Jennifer Holland, Steve Agee, Robert Patrick, Annie Chang, and Lachlan Monroe. And yeah, that we follow our team from Task Force X support staff, who betrayed Waller in the Suicide Squad and is thus on her shit list, as they are forced to work with the insufferable Christopher Smith on this Project Butterfly, which we'll talk more about in spoilers. But yeah, that's our general kickoff point.
Yeah, and this series, it kind of feels like, because I did a little bit of reading on like, it kind of feels like a James Gunn fever dream, from Suicide Squad. Like he must have like had the flu, and then like in the middle of the night he had this brilliant dream about Peacemaker, and he was like, yep, I'm writing that the next morning. And I think I did hear like a story where he was he wrote this series like in like 6 weeks or something like that during like COVID, like he was like quarantined in his home, and he was like, I got nothing better to do, I'm bored. So he just drafted this series like really quick in just like a few weeks. And it's,
and fully expecting it to not be made. He was just doing it as like an outlet for himself to cope with the horrors of the last couple years, and it got great. Like, to his surprise, it got greenlit for a show. So you're right, that is the story he's told, at least.
And I, it's very interesting that he was able to pump something out that's like so, like, I mean, obviously they workshopped it and stuff, and probably did some rewrites and like a little bit of editing, of course, but like, it's really smart and snappy, and like, it's we'll talk about this later too with like pacing, but it's really well paced. I feel like it's eight episodes throughout the series, and it's just really fun and creative, and it's difficult to really find. Again, it's difficult for me to find issues with this series, but I do have some issues, and we will talk about those later. But this is just it's phenomenal, and I feel like with a lot of superhero shows, like I just started watching Young Justice on HBO, and it's a cartoon show. It's like the Justice League but junior, so there's Kid Flash, and there's like these other characters on there like Aqualad. They all got the like kind of demeaning nicknames like that, like Superboy. He's not Superman, he's a boy. But in those kinds of shows, I feel like there's always this, there is always a presence of superpowers, superhero people. And this series, Peacemaker, it showed like you don't need superpowers in a superhero world to make a fun, entertaining series. Peacemaker's not superpowered. He's just a really strong, buff guy, and he's got some kind of like advantages that are more tactical. And I appreciate that. I think that's what really makes this show unique, is it takes that risk of saying we don't need superpowers. We don't need like a superhero to guide the way, like, in any other superhero series.
Yeah, that's true. And like outside of Batman, that's not really an element of superheroing that's played with as much in the big franchises. Like the CW had Arrow, which did that, and like Hawkeye, or always Archers, that does it as well. But it's which I understand too. It's the genre. Like part of the fun of it is like people who can punch through buildings, but people on the ground is really fun as well. Like it offers different perspective to that world that is fun to explore. And especially when your protagonist thinks like the main superheroes are kind of like douchebags. I think that's a fun wrinkle to throw in.
I did enjoy that perspective throughout the series. I thought that was very funny. And, just to kind of pile on here, it's nice to have an anti-hero in the spotlight as well, because in the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker comes across as an asshole, as a racist, as like the worst possible human you could ever possibly imagine. And in this series, it really redeems him. Like it shows he's not necessarily a bad guy. He was just kind of in a bad position, and he needed to do this thing to get like, out of prison faster. He's complex. Right. He's not inherently evil or bad. And it's just kind of nice to have this humanizing tale for this character.
Yeah. And I think too, it's really honest about people like Peacemaker. Like he is a complete bigot at the start of the series. Like, but the show is very smart at showing that like those attitudes don't just come out of nowhere. Like they're fostered by hateful people. And if the person in question like wants to work and become a better person, like that is possible, especially when they are removed from the hostile, hateful environment that instilled those ideas, and they're surrounded by people who don't hold them and show them another way. I think that's a really mature way to handle a character like Peacemaker, because he and even in the Suicide Squad, he's an asshole, but he's like, he does the bad things he does because he thinks that's what the people who have a bomb in his head expect him to do, which is and I'm not defending him. Like, he killed Rick Flag, that was shitty. And he's a racist asshole, but the way the show writes him and James Gunn writes him is very well done. Not to say too much outside of spoilers, but we'll get there.
Yeah. And, along a similar line, we saw it in the Suicide Squad, and we see it in this series too. Peacemaker, he's crude. He's really absurd. He's in your face. And it's, just like you said, he's an asshole. And yeah, this series just kind of gets that point across. You can be creative. You can explore these new perspectives, and, it doesn't necessarily have to be, we're in the right, we're on the good side every time, like we're the good guys. It's like, yeah, it's a little bit more complex than that, and you can still have a very enjoyable series that kind of has some, I guess you could argue there's like a spy thriller element to it, but it's really not. It's very much like an action oriented series. And but yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this way more than I was expecting, and I gotta say that that soundtrack is probably my favorite part of the series, all in all.
It's great, and the opening credit sequence is beautiful camp. It's wonderful. Yeah, it is a full on dance number, and it's great. It's awesome. One other just very funny detail, you see it in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler, but he has a pet bald eagle named Eagly, and there is an actor credited as the voice of Eagly. That actor is D. Bradley Baker, who you at least will know as the voice of every clone trooper in the Star Wars animated shows. He is that.
You should know this now. I fucking don't.
Well, no, I not that you knew his name, but you would recognize the guy. Like, he's Captain Rex, he's Commander Cody, he's all of the clones, every single one. I mean, he's, I guess, Jango Fett if he's in the cartoons. I don't think he is, but yeah, just funny that the Clone Wars guy is the voice of a bald eagle who doesn't talk.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. I was like, that's a real eagle. Like, they recorded real eagle noises.
It was not a real eagle though. Totally CGI eagle.
Oh yeah, I assumed as much. Yeah, it's definitely CGI eagle.
And I only know that because someone asked James Gunn on Twitter if it was a real eagle, and he was like, no, totally special effect.
Yeah, I don't think that you're like getting that close to an eagle, even if it's bred in captivity. I feel like it's gonna poke your eye out. So
right, and it was probably just like for the production, for the animal safety, it's probably better to not have it, and you have to have an animal trainer on hand. You have to have a whole animal handling department there, and
yeah,
for a show, especially one shot during COVID, as this was, like, you probably are trying to keep the crew as tight as possible. So CGI bird, which is fine. It's pretty spotless as an effect.
Yeah, it's good, and I think the Eagly's a fun character too. I really enjoy him, and when he comes in at the end of that of the title sequence, it's like, yes, 100%. There's other shows, I will skip the intro every time, but this is one of those shows where I watched the credit sequence every time.
Yeah, if you skip the Peacemaker opening credits, you're a criminal. And you should go to jail. I believe that wholeheartedly. You should be in prison.
Strong opinions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, with that, should we just kind of dive right in now? Spoilers.
I'm ready. I'm ready for spoilers.
Spoiler time.
But yeah, one more note that you put here. It does stand out from the rest of the DC EU, if it's still called that, other than the Suicide Squad. It's very much James Gunn's portrayal of DC. But spoiler time. Let's do it at 14 minutes and 40 seconds. Boom.
Awesome.
Yeah. So an element of this that was really, and I'm starting to notice it across James Gunn's work, at least in superheroes. I haven't seen his work outside of the genre, I don't think, but it seems like he has a recurring theme of relationships with very difficult fathers. You see it in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with Ego the Living Planet, and it comes up again here as Chris's dad is the White Dragon. Is that what he's called?
Yes, it's
The
White Dragon.
I mean, he is a very much white supremacist Nazi type. He's a bad man.
He's a goddamn bigot if I've ever seen one. It's gross, and kudos to the actor Robert Patrick. He's phenomenal here.
He gives a great performance. It's really scummy.
He plays a great white supremacist, almost too great. I'm sure he's a good guy in real life too, but that is an interesting point about James Gunn, that because that does pop up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But I think it's also like James Gunn he's unafraid about like looking or like shining a spotlight on these like bigger issues, and kind of just like bringing that into the story. And I mean, parental issues, I feel like a lot of people, depends on your upbringing, of course, will have parental issues, but Suicide Squad, I think one of the biggest things that he brought to the forefront was just like the US does all these covert ops across the world and fucks everything up, and this just isn't as widely talked about. And it's like, that is a great commentary to throw in there. Thank you for that. And
we talked about it in the Suicide Squad episode, I think, but like the only reason that movie and this show are made is because James Gunn was outwardly critical of President Trump, and some right-wing grifter went back through and dug up 10-year-old tweets that James Gunn had already apologized for, that were like him joking about like pedophilia and stuff, like actually really terrible jokes. But Disney knew about them. James Gunn had addressed them before and apologized for them. He's not the same guy, but Disney fired him anyway for optics. And then Warner Brothers scooped him up and just said, make whatever you want. And that's how we got the Suicide Squad, and by extension this show. So it's like that domino effect meme. It's like James Gunn criticizes our shitty president, Peacemaker.
It's like, thank God.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And to all our listeners, if you like Peacemaker, I encourage you to go check out our episode on the Suicide Squad, because that was a fun episode to record.
It was.
We had a blast recording that. And that was a great movie in general too. But I mean, kind of pivoting back, I guess, to this like topic of what James Gunn likes to focus on in the superhero work, because he does highlight, this problem that we were talking about before, where Peacemaker isn't necessarily racist because he's a racist. He's racist because his father taught him that way. He was raised that way, and like he was really kind of like victimized as a child. And it just shows the complexity of people, but it also kind of speaks a little bit to bigotry in the US, white supremacy in the US, and all that stuff. But I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
I think building off of what you're saying, like, I mean, playing into the fact that he has a shield in the finale that he uses, like Peacemaker is basically like racist Captain America. Captain America is kind of like what America should be, and Peacemaker is what America actually is. A bigoted asshole who kills people, but who like thinks what he's doing is justified, and also in this show makes like real efforts to be a better person. Even at the beginning, remember when he's talking to the janitor guy at the hospital? Yes, and the guy's like, "Oh, you're that racist superhero." He's like, "What the fuck? No, I'm not." And then the guy's like, he's like, "I just kill people committing crimes." It's like, you kill way more black people than white people. And then, but his response to that, take notes, American police departments, was you're right. I should be better about that. Immediately, like better than almost all cops. Good job, Peacemaker, for being better than police.
He was like, okay, I'll take that note. And I'll think about it, and down the line, I will kill more white people. And I was like, how's that sound? And he's like, yes, that sounds great.
It's like, maybe like kill less people of color than more white, but like, he's taking notes. Something that real life police refuse to do.
Getting better.
But also just his arc throughout the series is really interesting because he like freezes up in that one episode and he can't take the shot because he doesn't want to kill kids. And then even when he finds out they're weird aliens, he doesn't want to kill them. But then he like has this moment of reflection where he's just like, I don't think it was because the gun didn't have the dove of peace. Like, I think I just don't want to kill people anymore, which was really interesting to watch. And then there was the comedic turnaround when Harcourt is like, now's not the time, man. He's like, oh, they're aliens. Fuck them. I don't care about that. Like, that was kind of funny too. But I want to talk about the scene where he goes to his dad's house a little bit and they're like eating lunch silently and it's really uncomfortable. And the only thing they can relate about is blood sports, like rat phobia. And they start laughing and mocking him. And that is the only way he can connect with his dad, is belittling someone else. And it really shows like, well, that's how someone grows up to be Peacemaker. You have that type of relationship with the people in your life where the only positive reaction you can get from them is belittling another person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's conditioning and you just learn it gradually over time. And yeah, that was a very interesting scene to watch because I feel like, you know, just even reflecting on my own life, I feel like a lot of my humor, a lot of my senses have been shaped by my connection with my own father. And I've always looked up to him. He's been an idol for me. So yeah, I can absolutely understand how all of, or at least some of his beliefs have become imprinted on me and his sense of humor has become imprinted on me. So, you know, definitely stems that way. And, you know, one other thing that's kind of interesting too, you know, because I was thinking to myself, is this the first live action DC show? And I was like, no, it's not, I guess, because of Watchmen. You know, Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen's a little different though.
Yeah,
like it's not,
for sure.
It is for the most part its own continuity and universe.
Oh, sure.
Like they folded them into the comics briefly, but I think they're not sticking with that. I don't know.
Oh, no, yeah. I just know that they're kind of, I think that they're just classified in the DC universe or something like that.
Yeah.
But
and you've got the CW stuff as well, but that's also its own continuity.
True. But I just kind of thought that was interesting that these two shows that are like, you know, Watchmen, I feel like is one of the best shows of like the past few years. It's just phenomenal.
It's really good.
And then Peacemaker comes along and Peacemaker's great too. And, you know, it's just kind of like two knockouts in a row there for the shows. And, you know, both of these shows dealt a little bit with racism too and highlighted some white supremacists, but they didn't give them legitimacy or like you know, made them appealing. They were gross, they were disgusting people who were clearly the antagonists of the series. So I appreciate you, DC. Keep pumping out those shows where you put the racists down.
I agree. And I also, it's a weird thing to say I appreciate, but I like it's for the sake of like brand safety and making more enjoyable television and movies overall. Like it's probably very tempting as a writer to water down your racist antagonists. And James Gunn goes the opposite direction. Robert Patrick is dropping slurs left and right. And I think while that it's potentially triggering to people in those affected populations, totally sympathize with that. It's important to paint your white supremacists as slimy scumbags. And to show like the depravity that they engage in, like just monstrous, slimy pieces of shit. Every white supremacist is that way. Some can be rehabilitated, a la Peacemaker. And there are real life examples of this too, but like the perpetrators, the people who instill those values are like probably beyond help. Like your Ben Shapiro's and your Tucker Carlson's, like they're in too deep, they're evil. Fuck them, show them as the villains they are. And I mean, that's what Robert Patrick is in this show. He does a great job. You know who that actor is too, right? Like what he's most known for other than this.
Yeah, he was the Terminator in Judgment Day, right?
Yeah, he's the T-1000.
I didn't recognize that at first, but like when I started Googling around, I was like, oh my God, I see that now. And he's because he was excellent in that movie too. Like
he says almost nothing in that entire movie, and it's just a great like stoic hunt you down performance. It's awesome. Very different character than this, but
he's really good at playing those kind of menacing characters. And Yeah, like I remember hearing something once that like he went to a like when he was training for that role of like the T2000 or whatever,
T1000, yeah.
T1000, thank you. He like really focused in on like the gun work a lot too, because as a
Mm.
machine, you're not going to blink when you fire the gun or like flinch.
Oh, okay,
So
that's
he
cool.
trained really hard.
Hmm.
You'll have to like look this up. I encourage our listeners to look this up, but like he trained really hard, like just shooting for a long time, just training himself not to blink or not to flinch at like any kind of stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
and when you watch it back, he doesn't blink, he doesn't flinch. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he's a great personal antagonist for Peacemaker in the show, because Peacemaker's like personal investment in the butterfly plot is minimal, but he has a lot of growth in breaking free of his father, which even by the end of the show, he's not really free of him. And that's something that will probably be explored in the future. But he just like caps his dad towards the end, because like you gotta, I guess, at that point.
yeah, that was a good scene too. I like that climax. And now that his father's gone, like we had that one scene where he's kind of like walking around the woods, like looking
Mhm.
for his helmet, and he's talking to his dad. But then
Yeah.
Hardcore comes up and is like, "What are you doing? Like,
Mhm.
what is this?" So
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
kind
he
of
shoots the tree.
yeah, he shoots the tree.
Yeah.
But like, a part of me is like wondering, like, is that a mental illness, or is that like because his dad kind of had like some sciency knowledge, with that
Mhm.
infinite room that
Oh,
he hid in his
that room
house,
was
and like
wild. Yeah.
yeah, and he came up with those helmets and like all this technology. It's like, so his dad was kind of smart, I guess. So could there possibly be some way that he is living through his son, like with some technology? I have no idea, but like that's just kind of speculation. And either
Yeah.
way, I'm interested to see like what happens moving forward with Peacemaker, like whenever he returns,
Hmm.
like if that dynamic with him and his dad in his head will continue.
Yeah. I think it's more thematic than anything.
Yeah.
And it may, and I don't know, maybe in season 2, Peacemaker goes to therapy and has to deal with that. Like, that wouldn't be a horrible thing to explore. Be okay with that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that'd be okay as well.
Yeah. You have a comment here about how Robert Patrick and John Cena worked together in a movie called The Marine. And I only want to mention this because and this is, I think, the typical wrestler to actor trajectory. It's like they star in kind of shitty action movies for a while.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I don't remember what movie it was, but a DVD I owned had because DVDs used to have trailers for like coming soon to DVD things. One of them
Yeah.
was The Marine 2, looked like hot garbage. And I just the like voiceover in the trailer was always like, it all started when they messed with the wrong guy, the Marine, and now he's back in the Marine 2. And or something like that. And it's been imprinted into my brain, probably at the expense of some really valuable memories of my family or something. But I just wanted to mention that because you put that note in here about the Marine.
Well, thank you for sharing. I
Mhm.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mainly put it in there because I was like, oh, they had worked together before on The Marine, John Cena and Robert Patrick. Like they've moved, they're credited both in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they were in Marine 2 together. Maybe
Let's
we
see.
need to do a whole episode on
No,
the Marine
no,
series.
fuck you. No. Oh my God. It's the Marine 2 is the IMDb entry is the Marine 2 parentheses video 2009. It has, let's see, John Cena isn't even in it.
Okay.
While
Well,
on
now I'm
vacation, an American Marine sniper takes on local rebels who have seized control of the island hotel resort where he and his wife, who is now a hostage for ransom, have been staying. This is like the most direct to DVD plot summary I've ever read. Let's
yeah,
see, The
that's got
Marine.
that's got B, C, D movie written all over
All
it.
right, yeah, The Marine 1 is John Cena. Wait a minute, is that Tommy Lee? No, that's not Tommy Lee Jones. That's Robert Patrick. A group of diamond thieves on the run kidnap the wife of a recently discharged Marine who goes on a chase through the South Carolinian wilderness to retrieve her.
All right.
Cool.
That sounds like a movie I'll forget about.
Stay tuned for the Marine episode that will never happen. Okay, moving on from the Marine.
Yeah, let's get out of this tangent and talk about another part of Peacemaker.
Yeah.
We were just talking about his dad. Why not shift gears to a different character, Vigilante? What'd you think about that introduction to Vigilante?
I liked Vigilante. He was an unhinged little shitlord.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the character of Vigilante is in Arrow, in a very different way. And the character of Adrian Chase is also in Arrow, but in that show, they're two different people.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they did like a little reversal because they had Vigilante show up as like a masked anti-hero villain for a while, and Adrian Chase is Vigilante in the comics. So they did a twist on it where Adrian Chase was a different villain in the it's fine. It was actually a good season of that show. But
Okay.
yeah, they do a little reversal on us. But yeah, Vigilante in this was really fun. He said a lot of dumb shit, but yeah, he's a little bit of a psychopath, but I liked him. What about you?
Yeah, he was absolutely a psychopath. He kind of reminds me of like, the kids that you go to high school with and they're like all pro jock on the football team. Like they think they're the hot shit, and then you forget about them, and then you go back to your high school like 10 years later and you realize, oh, they're really deep into like conspiracies and like kung fu, and they've bought nunchucks online.
They were studying the blade.
Yeah, they were studying the blade, and it's like, so what do you do with your time when you're not hobbying or anything? And they're like, well, I work at the the gas station. It's like, okay, cool, no judgment, but that's kind of who he reminded me of a little bit.
Okay.
Is that
like the guy who works at the gas station and scrolls 4chan in his free time, like that kind of guy.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, he kind of also reminded me, mainly because of his outfit, I think, more like a little bit of Kick-Ass, that movie.
Okay. Yeah.
That was kind of a throwback. I haven't seen that in forever, but I kind of got a little bit of a vibe from that, where it's just like, I've committed my body to to justice and bringing people to justice. It's like, okay, dude, like stop jerking yourself off so much. Like,
I love that he'd left Peacemaker like 100 voice messages in the years he was in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little unclear on like their relationship at the start of the series. Like, it kind of felt like Vigilante came on was like, he saw himself as the best friend of Peacemaker, but Peacemaker was like, please don't talk to me ever. That was the vibe I got in the first episode. But like, as it went on, it was like, oh, you guys are kind of more long-term friends. So I think.
Yeah, I also got the vibe that Peacemaker more put up with Vigilante beforehand than otherwise. And then they eventually did kind of become friends.
Yeah.
Although I think Peacemaker also feels that Vigilante is kind of unhinged.
Oh yeah, I think everyone knows that Vigilante is he needs therapy a lot more than Peacemaker, I think.
Yeah, they both need it. But yeah, Vigilante like loves violence.
Yeah, it's kind of concerning. Like, I remember that one scene where they're like in bed and they're smoking a joint, and he's like, I would have shot you both right in the face a year ago if I caught you smoking weed.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Now that it's legal, I don't care. Like, I can't kill you because of it.
Yeah, it really adds a dimension to what Vigilante considers justice.
And I really like too, like, those scenes where he's out of costume and like trying not to like give away his identity.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it is so fucking obvious. Like, don't even try.
Yeah. I also love that the only reason he's on the team is like he just sees Peacemaker and Harcourt like on mission, and the rest of them like, well, fuck, now he knows, so we have to include him.
It's like, well, god damn it. Okay, I guess you're part of the team now.
Yeah, it was great. And speaking of Harcourt, we can talk about her a little bit. I enjoyed her character a lot, and the dynamic between her and Peacemaker is good. Whether or not it builds to romance later on, I could go either way on, I think. But
yeah, me too. I think they're definitely kind of hinting at it in this series. Right from the first episode where she's like, fuck off, I'm not like, I just got out of prison, fuck, like, a real person. Like I'm not just here to like be like a sex object for you.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that. Like I appreciate her agency in this series too, because she kind of assumes that leader role later on. And um but yeah, I appreciate that it's also slow. James Gunn's like, no, we're just gonna kind of ease it, see if there's like a
Yeah.
connection here. And I don't know. By the end of this year, by the end of this first season, yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat of I'll take it or leave it. Either way, they can be together. They cannot if they want to move forward with
Mhm.
this series. You know.
Yeah, and I appreciate the like slow build of, but hit Peacemaker's relationship with her, but with everyone, it's like he starts bonding with them as he's becoming a better person. Like they don't become really more accepting of his like awfulness. He is actually like putting in work and growing, which is good to see. Like no, I don't think they're enabling his like reactionary tendencies. They call him out on it all the time, and
Oh
he's
yeah.
like working on getting better. You know,
Hmm.
it's good to see.
Yeah, yeah. Like even yeah, I think like that first scene where they sat down in the diner and then he like calls that woman like sweet cheeks.
Oh my
And there's
god,
like,
yeah.
you can't call someone that anymore. And he's like, wait, I thought I was just referring to her cheeks. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like yeah, it's funny. And yeah, I'd agree. And you know, I think we don't really have too many show notes about it, I think, written down, but you know, his relationship with Adebayo,
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
it's a pretty good one too,
Mhm.
because you know, she's obviously like I appreciated that they brought her into the mix too, because she feels like an everyday kind of person. She's nervous on the first day. She's like, she doesn't want to kill people.
Yeah.
Like,
Except that she's also like a mega badass who just runs
yeah,
and
right.
guns. Like it's pretty awesome. And that the element that she's Amanda Waller's daughter adds a really
Mm,
interesting wrinkle to both the chemistry of the team and to Waller's character. Cause like, and just her dynamic with Amanda Waller is very interesting because Waller is like kind of kind to her on the phone, but is also putting her in situations where she's making her do things that make her uncomfortable.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, her divided loyalty between like loyalty to her family and to her friends is interesting, I think, with the Peacemaker diary thing.
Yeah, that was that was like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this, girl? But
Yeah, that
totally
was
get it.
really it
And
was really sad. Like because
mm-hmm.
like Christopher trusted her a lot at that point, and she fucked up. Like she really did betray him, and that wasn't a good thing to do. Like it doesn't let her off the hook for that either, the show, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
it was fucked up, and she knows it was fucked up, and she did it anyway. And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate. I keep saying that word, but you know, their relationship grows steadily over the series, you know, and by the end, when they're like, yeah, don't tell Vigilante, but you know, after Eagly, I think you're my next best friend.
yeah,
Oh, that's so
it's really sweet.
sweet.
It's great. And
Peacemaker grew.
yeah, and on that note, more broadly, like the show really took its time with its characters, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
it let's say in stark contrast to the other big pop culture show I was watching alongside this, The Book of Boba Fett, this show
Mm.
takes its characters fucking seriously and gives them time to develop so that by the end, like what was a running gag about like beard dye has a kind of powerful emotional resolution.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot, and it's done very well. Whereas like, and I'm not gonna shit on the Book of Boba Fett too much again. But it's like by the finale of this show, we care about all of these people and their relationships with each other. Whereas in the Book of Boba Fett, we don't know them. And it's just like it really shows what focusing on your characters can do for your series. Like,
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, you know, I think it is difficult to compare a superhero show to a Star Wars show, but at the same time, they have very similar elements. And it's just kind of yeah, the basics of storytelling. You know, you want us to care about the characters, you want us to have some emotional investment in the
mhm,
series that makes us keep coming back every week to watch these episodes and have that fascination of like, I want to know what happens next to these people and you know, feel invested in them. And
mhm.
yeah, in the Book of Boba Fett, the only person I'm invested in is Grogu. You
Yeah,
know, Grogu and the Mandalorian.
who shouldn't even be in that show. Like
Yes,
that's
yes.
that's the problem. It's like, and you can have cameos of other big characters. Peacemaker does. The fucking
Yes.
Justice League shows up at the end, but it works in the context of Peacemaker because Peacemaker has talked about them derisively earlier, and then they show, and he like writes them off because it's like, yeah, you're late. You didn't get here in time, and it went horribly because you didn't show up. And it's like it plays into his thoughts on them. It plays into like some problems they're off dealing with and they aren't thinking about other stuff. Like it's part of this story. They exist as a commentary on Peacemaker's character here. And one note on the Justice League real quick is James Gunn filmed it with a stand-in for Batman and Cyborg. Warner Brothers removed them.
Oh, that's shitty.
Yeah, probably because of Warner Brothers like ongoing and unjust like animosity towards Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg. Because for those who don't remember, Ray Fisher has been speaking quite publicly for a very long time, since the 2016 Justice League movie, pretty much, about the racist and horrible onset behavior of Joss Whedon, Jeff Johns, and Walter Hamada, and has been arguing for a lot of stuff since then. And the result of that is that he's basically like being lied about by Warner Brothers. And like Joss Whedon in his like tell-all interview that I have yet to read was basically like, yeah, I cut his scenes because he's a bad actor. I was like, well, we've seen the scenes and he's not a bad actor. So
it's not true.
Sounds like
true.
Sounds like Joss Whedon is a liar.
I'll believe that. Yeah, that's so interesting that they like. Thank you for that recap. I forgot about that too. But yeah, that's interesting that they would shoot it with all 6 of them and then remove 2 of them. Like,
yeah. Well, obviously James Gunn is not on the same page as Warner Brothers higher ups because basically like Warner Brothers is protecting Jeff Johns. Seems to be what's going on. Because Jeff Johns and Joss Whedon were working closely on Justice League, and their attitudes were the same. And Walter Hamada is friends with Jeff Johns, I think, and is protecting him from the consequences of his actions. And,
well, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and Ray Fisher has basically like destroyed his own career to bring this stuff to light. So.
Well, I applaud him for that, and you know, I will. If a Cyborg movie is ever there in the future, I will watch it because he was an interesting character. I don't know if they ever make another Justice League or find some way to integrate those Justice League characters again. Happy to watch that stuff.
Yeah, he will be in Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's Star Wars thing or Star Wars type project. So he was just cast in that like last week.
Oh, I didn't hear about that project. That'll be cool.
It's a Netflix.
But yeah, I did.
But yeah. The Justice League, the point is the Justice League works here because they're not taking the spotlight away from the characters of the show.
They're there for just a second and just to kind of like, I really like that because like I made a note about that here too, is like it's a good way to tie in some stuff like Aquaman and the Flash and you know, be like, there's Henry Cavill's Superman, but is it Henry Cavill? We don't know. But there he is. I like that. And you know, it was also kind of a classy way to tie in the Aquaman fish fucker joke, you know, like Aquaman fucks fish. Like that was really funny.
But again, that's a joke that was from earlier in the show. Like they're woven into this show's story.
Yes.
At least like the minimum amount of thought was placed into how like that happens. Unlike spoilers for Boba Fett, it's like we're just gonna leave our story and hang out with Luke Skywalker for half an episode. Like, why? Why are we doing that? That's a bad idea. You're compromising your show to do this. Peacemaker doesn't do that. Peacemaker is smart.
Yeah, Peacemaker is like, let's hone in on the characters who this story actually involves.
Yeah. If the character's name is the title of your show, they should feature in every episode of your show. Wow.
Wow, what a concept. What a concept that Peacemaker would be in every episode of Peacemaker.
I mean, you wouldn't think so, but here we are in 2022 having to say that that's a thing you should do in your story. And there are shows where I've been told that there are episodes of Doctor Who where the Doctor is not in them, but Doctor Who is a much longer show that has spanned decades, and also I'm willing to bet that those episodes without him are still focused on the primary cast of characters in most cases and feed into at least the thematic through lines of the show. I don't know that. I'm just speculating, but
well, and I would also speculate that those episodes probably aren't the best ones.
Some of them are apparently. Apparently some of the best Doctor Who episodes barely or don't feature the Doctor. But
interesting.
But it's a different structure than a 6-episode miniseries. 7, sorry. But moving on from that.
Yes.
But yeah, by the end, like, we care about all the characters. We like them. We are invested in their relationships, and we don't want them to die. And there's real danger of them dying.
Well, yeah, and I think it's because, you know, the show really took its time. Developing these characters. And I don't mean just like honing in on those characters and highlighting them every single episode. I mean, the show really like took time to breathe. And some episodes you wouldn't leave one location. You would stay in one location the entire episode. You know, like episode 2 where Peacemaker's escaping from that apartment after he killed that woman. You know, the whole episode is just in the apartment complex. You don't leave that area. It's just him escaping. And that's just a great sequence of events. And then the third episode is really just them staking out the butterfly residence. Like, you don't go anywhere else. It's just them there staking it out, and then whatever happens on the inside. And then even the 8th episode, you know, like some of the other episodes, they bounce around a lot for sure, but like the 8th one, they're just at the barn the whole time. You know, so I think James Gunn was really smart in how he was like, this episode is just going to focus on one location and one situation, and we're just going to stretch that. We're going to focus on the characters and what they're doing. And I think that was absolutely the right way to take it. Like, yes, there were some like elements in the series where it was like, oh, this is a little repetitive. They're driving on the road again, or hey, they're at the HQ, they're regrouping and chatting. Like, this could be a little bit more unique. But then the next minute, you know, there's like a scene of Peacemaker playing the piano. You know,
that was a beautiful scene. That was really good.
There was some great diversity in those like locations where they went to, but you know, it's also because they just said, let's slow down, let's pump the brakes, and let's just take our time to get to know these people.
Yeah. And their relationships develop in pretty realistic ways. Like Chris and Economist like are at each other's throats, giving each other shit constantly. And then they discover they like the same type of music. And then they start like relating to each other through that. And then by the end of the series, like they do actually care about each other. And like the team becomes friends pretty organically just through shared experience and talking to each other like people. I thought I really liked that bonding over the music scene, and like he's making fun of Economist like right before, and then Economist is like, oh yeah, I saw them like a couple years, like way back when. And he's like, oh shit, that's awesome, man. And it's just like a very real thing. I don't know. It's not a great
absolutely
way to say
like,
that.
I think, well, I think it is real, you know. Whole relationships, whole friendships can be started off of just like one common trait, and that common trait is usually music. You know, oh, I love the Doors. I love the Doors too. Let's hang out. You know, you could hate someone like down to their core, but if they really like the same artist as you, that's something special. And that is how people talk. You know, when you realize one of your friends really likes a type of music that you're into, you're gonna like him even more. And I think he did a good job with writing that into the script.
and not the best example because Economist is just a white dude, but like that's also how you can break down prejudices too. It's like and Peacemaker is a very prejudiced character, so it's just like that's why diversity and representation is so fucking important. Or one reason is that like you expose potentially hateful people to people who are different from them, and then just through conversation, interaction, like they find the common ground, and it starts to humanize people who they otherwise were othering. Like that's again like white dude's perspective on it, but like that's one application of diversity if you need an application for it. It's like it educates people on the humanity of others.
Yeah,
And just
absolutely.
finding like that one nugget of common ground can be like uplifting and redemptive, rehabilitative. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and one thing also too with this series too, it gave some good ample screen time to our main cast of characters, but I think it also did a really good job with the extra characters outside of that. The cops at the cop station. We got to know them really well as they were people, or not really well, but we got to know them as they were regular people well enough, and then they get changed to new people because they got inhabited by the butterflies, and then they kind of just totally changed again, and I thought that was really neat to see that change. But they got some good screen time, and we got to kind of understand the dynamic between the main cops.
The main detective. And it was like we got to know them well enough to where at least I was bummed out when Sophie gets taken over by Goff. Like that was sad, like, because she was just a good person trying to do her job well, and then got her life totally stolen away from her. And that scene of her walking into the police department with the swarm was beautiful. So good. It was so awesome. And also the butterflies in general were really interesting. I think they could have done something more with them, which I'll get to in a second. But how did you feel about the butterflies and the various reveals we get about them and just their motivation in general?
I honestly, I think it's a good example of how to subvert some expectations to a certain degree. Because I think when the butterflies are first introduced into this series, the expectation that's being set up is that these butterflies are kind of an ET character, where they're peaceful creatures, but they're just kind of on the run from extinction or a bigger threat, or they're just trying to reconnect with like their species. They're trying to phone home or something like that. That was kind of the direction I felt like it was going at the start, where it's like,
gotcha.
Yes, they might take over some bodies, but the intention is this. They're good after all, and maybe there's something bigger that you team up against. But as the series goes on, we realize that's not true. That's not really the case. They're here to really take over our bodies and like put their will out into the world and really become humanity. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Well, and they have that other motivation as well of like preventing humanity from making the same mistakes they did on their planet, which adds another wrinkle to them. And the one thing I think would have been interesting that they didn't do is Peacemaker. Oh, that big part of Peacemaker's character is learning to like be a better and less bigoted person, I think. But with the butterflies, they're completely otherized and alien, and there's no like moral quandary about him killing them, really. Because they even say, like, in that scene I mentioned earlier where she's like, now's not the time to not want to kill people. It's like, oh, fuck them, they're aliens. It's like, it would have been an interesting direction to take where he has to learn to not otherize this other population, maybe. But I did like the element that he wasn't sure if he'd made the right decision, because he was like, did I just kill the like planet or something like that? But his motivation, I think, was totally in character and aligned with his growth as well. He was like, they were going to hurt you guys and they wouldn't have let you live. So it was like a somewhat selfish decision, but also maybe, I don't know. It doesn't attempt to like say he was in the right or in the wrong. He just like made a decision he would make as a character. How did you feel about Myrn and the reveal that he was a butterfly, but not aligned with the other butterflies?
Yeah, that was. I wish I picked up on that earlier, that he was a butterfly, because I didn't guess that. Like, because I feel like on a rewatch, I could definitely see him, the characteristics shining through of what a butterfly is. Yeah, exactly, because he's kind of cold, one direction focused. Like kind of stares off into the distance. I appreciated that reveal. It added another layer. Myrn as a character, I don't really enjoy, or I enjoyed him fine enough. I'd say he was just a fine character. I just didn't feel as strong of a connection to him, and I think that's okay. You know, he served his purpose in the series, as kind of like getting the team together, setting the expectations for them, and I guess providing a little bit of a fire under their ass at the end to save the day. But you know, I think it was a good reveal for sure. What about you? What are your thoughts?
I liked Myrn fine. He wasn't my favorite character, but I think he served his role well, and I loved that we essentially get multiple reveals about Myrn throughout the series, and it really took advantage of the TV show format more than a lot of these shows do, because it's like I think it's episode 3 we find out Myrn's a butterfly, which obviously makes us feel very sinister about that, which sets us up for the end of the next episode where Adebayo discovers he's a butterfly and we think she's fucked, and then it sets us up for the flip reveal that he is a butterfly, but he is actually on their side, and he's fighting against the other butterflies because he defected. And it the episode when Adebayo finds out is the one where they go to the butterflies place, right? The factory.
Right, yeah.
So my thought leaving that episode was, oh, he set them up to fail by sending them there, knowing what they would find, and was like not prepared for them to come back. That was my read on that episode, was because he doesn't go with them. He's the only one who doesn't go with them. So it added that level of tension. It's like he is sending them in to die, was what I thought. But and his death hit well enough. I think it was pretty effective. It was like our Dark Night of the Soul moment for this season. You know, everybody's down, they're in trouble. Oh, should we talk about Judo Master? We didn't put him in the notes at all. What is,
he's
strange character.
Yeah, it's hard to like put a label on him for me, because I'm like, I appreciate him, but also he has like no lines, and it's like, oh yeah, he just understood the mission, but at the same time, like, what? Like,
yeah, he just like bought into the vision, I guess. I did love when he like beats up those drunk guys and steals their car from them.
That is nice.
And he has a moment with the shopkeeper, and he's like,
like, hell yes. But yeah, I think he's a feisty little guy, and I enjoyed him. Like out in the scenes between him and Peacemaker, like he's like shouting that insult at him, like, your body's shaped weird. And he's like, is that an insult? What are you?
Yeah. And then
funny.
And then like there is like some sadness with him too at the end when he's by the butterflies barn and is just like devastated because all the people he aligned himself with are dead. And it's like
as he's eating his chips,
as he's eating his hot Cheetos, and he's crying. Yeah. But I imagine we'll see him again.
Yeah, I'm sure if Peacemaker's in the future of the DC universe, then Judo Master is not far behind him.
No.
And speaking of the kind of these side characters, one of my favorite ones was that older man
the neighbor,
the neighbor. Hilarious, like his interactions with Peacemaker, so funny because he's like, oh fuck, the neighbor's here, I gotta try and get inside real quick, I don't want to talk to him about superhero shit.
It was really funny.
What did he say? It was like, do you have
any your villains? Who are your super villains?
I was like, it's like a coiterie, is that the word he used or something like that?
Or I don't remember,
some fancy word,
but it was like funny that. Doesn't Peacemaker call Batman a pussy?
Oh yeah, and he absolutely calls him a pussy, and he does pose this kind of ideological debate, I'd say, that's been out there about Batman forever. It's like, so you're just taking them, locking them up, they break out of jail, and then they go off and do more crimes and kill more people.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing here? The system is not working. Like,
right.
Wouldn't it make more sense to kill him? But at the same time, you can't make the jury, judge, and executioner call all in one stroke,
Yeah. That's why Batman is portrayed as a hero and Judge Dredd less so.
Yeah.
but I mean, it is, and we'll probably talk about Batman a lot next episode because it's
Yes, absolutely
gonna be about him. So we can talk. Let's save Batman talk for then because I think we can get into that topic a lot. But yeah, I thought the old man was hilarious. I love that he's in the dance number.
Yeah, he's got his little skit in the back.
Oh my god, when the janitor has Peacemaker go to his kid's show and tell, and then the one kid is like, "I think you might be my real dad."
That part is hilarious.
It's so funny.
He's just like, all right, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's like I gotta go.
Next question.
I gotta go. Yeah. I also loved when Economist is just like they have to divert the cops away from Peacemaker, and he just sends them to Peacemaker's dad instead. Yeah. It did lead to the scene where John Cena just lists off people for like 2 minutes. Too much, I think.
Yep.
100%. That is, there's one part of the show that isn't the best is the jokes go on too long, I think.
There's like these small like instances where it's like this part could have been workshopped a little bit more. Like that scene where John Cena just lists off a bunch of people like Ariana Grande. It's like, stop, just. I think that scene was improvised, him coming up with all those names.
I was about to say that the longer bits that don't work as well feel like improv bits in an otherwise tightly scripted show. And we've both done improv and like it, but like it has its place. And it didn't fit here, I don't think. In any of the cases, I don't think it worked really.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say any of them, but like this one in particular, where he's just listing off people, I'm like, can we just get to the next scene already? Like, I'm so bored with this. You could say any name to me, and I'm not going to really find it that funny in this scene where you're just listing off people. I think it would have been far more inventive to, like, I don't know, just go a different direction or have it be a shorter quip. Like, even just someone in, like, the DC universe that he could have named off. Like, why don't you fucking put down Bloodsport or, like, Ratcatcher, like, people we've met before or, like, something like that. Like, that would have been like funny, I guess. I don't know.
And I think the point of the bit is that it was like he could have put anyone and he chose the one person who was a bad idea. It's like, great. It went on too long. It's just like the improv, and I thought some of the improv stuff was funny throughout the show, and I think the humor of the show is funny, but there was a contrast between what was clearly a written joke and what was an improv joke, and they can both be good. I like both stand-up and improv are good, but if a stand-up comedian starts improving halfway through their set, like you can tell it feels different. It's a different vibe. So it's the mix of them didn't totally land for me.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think, there's definitely some points, with the dialogue that I just didn't entirely like. Like there's definitely some moments like I think it's the first episode, like Peacemaker like kind of reconnects with Vigilante, and Vigilante standing outside the window, and Peacemaker won't look because he thinks he has his dick out, and he makes this Louis C.K. reference. And I'm like, why did you make that reference? Like, I guess it's a joke, but it also is like, that's just too goddamn specific and timely. Like, I feel like there's something better that you could have put in there. And I think like at some points too, there was like, I don't know, a tone of a social justice warrior to a certain degree. Like, I don't know exactly how to phrase this because I'm in support of like, political correctness, like trying to like be progressive, and
it's like internet brain talk. It's I mean, and James Gunn is like internet social justice warrior. Like, so am I. But there is a way you speak on Twitter about these causes, and you can see that in the dialogue in these types of scenes. And it doesn't like, and I saw it pointed out in many places, like real people do not speak to each other that way. That's a typed comment that you make or a tweet or something like that. And that's a fair criticism. Like the politics themselves that are being said are valid, but they're not said in very human ways. And the Louis bit, specific, like that stands out to me as something that's not there to serve the characters in the scene. It's to make a commentary, which I think the commentary is fine. Like, especially since Louis is just like, I'm just going to do stand up again and go back like nothing ever happened. Like, having it immortalized in a piece of popular fiction that he just like masturbated in front of people, like, it's probably good to have that always out there so that he can never escape it fully. Like, that's fine, but that doesn't exist in service of Peacemaker. That exists in service of a commentary James Gunn is making about a comedian.
Yeah. It felt a little like simultaneously off brand and on brand, because like Peacemaker will be crude and he'll make those stupid kind of comments and jokes and be a little sexist and racist, but at the same time, it's like, come on, stay a little bit on script. It's like you guys just threw out the script in that scene where like, just make a joke about his dick and just see what lands. Like, do 5 takes over there about his dick and we'll see what works best and we'll use the best one.
Right. Yeah. It's just like, and improv works in some comedy movies. Obviously, like a lot of Judd Apatow stuff was improv. Thor Ragnarok is very heavily improv, from what I understand. It's like, it can work, but it's not the stuff that wasn't improv here was better. So,
oh well, yeah. I mean, you and I, like, we talked about this before about how we've done improv, and man, oh man, I've told some jokes that have just bombed.
yeah, and the benefit of like being on set like this is you can cut those, but that's also like a part of improv that I think people, including us, have struggled with. It's like, you got to know when to end the bit. And with stand up, it's like you can hone the joke so that by the time you're doing your Netflix special or whatever, it's like, it's gold.
It's perfect.
Which is why it's weird when someone like Dave Chappelle has a pretty shitty Netflix special, because it's like, you had every opportunity to make a wonderful piece of comedy and you did this instead.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've kind of lost some respect for Dave Chappelle, but that's a tale for another time.
Yeah. But it's like, it's upsetting when a great comedian has every opportunity to like make a really good comedy thing and instead they just become a hack. So,
yeah, it is. And
But-
kind of speaking of some disappointing stuff, like, I mean, a lot of this series, phenomenal for sure. One of the issues that I have with the ending, because I think the ending is great. That 8th episode is, I think, just solid through and through for the most part. But the one thing that I just have an issue with is another logical kind of inconsistency, I would say, with kind of the overarching DC universe, is that, at the end of the series, Adebayo goes on live TV to call out the Task Force X and kind of clear Peacemaker's name and drag Amanda Waller, her own mother, through the freaking mud. And that's fine. I'm fine with that, and that kind of sets the stage for some new narratives moving forward, especially for Peacemaker. But are you really telling me that Amanda freaking Waller's daughter did this, and Amanda didn't have an A, B, C, D plan to mitigate that? Like, are you really telling me that she overlooked that with her daughter going on national television? Like, I with the amount of like stuff I've heard about her and like how cold and calculating she is, especially in the first Suicide Squad movie, and then in this next one, she's very clearly a calculating person.
My only response would be like, maybe she has a blind spot for her daughter.
That's fair. Yeah.
But we could, and she does treat her daughter differently in the one scene.
Yes.
But I think that speaks to a problem as well. And I don't think the show overall needed more Amanda Waller. I think she was in it fine. I was surprised she was in it at all, actually. But like, and maybe they couldn't get Viola Davis for more than they got her for. Like, she's in 2 scenes, one in a living room and then one on a Zoom call, basically. So it's like, I don't know. She wasn't, you're right. Cause it's like, she shouldn't be taken off guard like that, but also I'm fine with it being because she didn't expect that from her kid. But
yeah. And it absolutely opens the door for more narratives. And, I feel like even if it does shut down Task Force X, there's some way they could shoehorn another Suicide Squad movie together, which I'm all for. If they want to do another one that's as good as the most recent one, please, full steam ahead. But yeah, I think if they want to, they can kind of backtrack a little bit. But yeah, it was kind of a surprise to me at the end.
Yeah, I mean, like, realistically, they don't even have to. Like, Guantanamo Bay is still a thing. Like, we've known it's bad for decades, and it's still there. So that, I mean, like, it's not outside of the question for the American people to find out that the government is using supervillains with bombs in their head to carry out black ops and be like, yeah, it's fine.
Well, I guess I'll just go to Burger King anyways.
Yeah. I guess I'll just like yell at someone who agrees with me but said something slightly different online, and then I'll call myself an activist.
Yes, I did something today. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, overall thoughts on the show are it's very good. I enjoyed it week to week. I like it. It's just great. I was surprised by how good it was, even though at this point I should stop being surprised by James Gunn stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, when you kind of stack it up against like other things in the DC universe, this obviously kind of goes to the top of the board, I'd say, like at least one of those few top positions. And then when you kind of compare it to some of these MCU series that are being released, I feel like it's very competitive in that right too. Like, this one kind of stands out to me almost like at the level of like Loki or something, like it's that good. I
think and we've talked about like the comparisons between DC's approach and Marvel's approach, but I think the perk of DC's approach is they're just letting filmmakers make the films they want to make at this point, which is resulting in more interesting projects. And I love the MCU. You love it too, presumably. And
yeah, more or less.
A large percentage of our show has been talking about MCU projects, but they cannot branch out creatively as much because of the production system they have for themselves, and that limits the creativity, which sucks. And I would like to see them take a page out of DC's playbook on this one specific regard. Obviously, you want that continuity, but release less films a year, and you can keep that continuity and work with it while giving filmmakers the freedom that James Gunn has on this side of the superhero aisle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and the only reason he has freedom with the Guardians is they're so separate from everything else. And his it's still not as out there as the Suicide Squad, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like the Guardians, just because they tie a little bit into a lot of the different pockets of the MCU.
Now they do, yeah.
Yeah, now they do, of course. At the time, they were very new. I don't know. I definitely see some. They bleed into each other a little bit, but they're separate projects that are great. Dylan, do you know what the future is here for Peacemaker moving forward?
I know the show is renewed, or a season 2 is ordered.
Excellent.
Yeah, but also I'm glad like season 1 is a complete narrative. It works. There are threads that are left that can be expanded upon, but like the show wraps up in a satisfying way. One note I forgot: the cow was so cute. And I was so sad.
It was surprisingly cute. Yeah.
So sad that he fucking shot it with a rocket.
A human.
Oh torpedo. Yeah, he shot it with a Hanabayo. I love how he talks about how horrible that helmet is and how it's like a neck breaking hazard, and then 2 scenes later just launches Adebayo with it.
She's like, oh my god, I feel like I got a concussion, but here I go again.
Yeah. And it's satisfying resolution to pretty much everything. I think I'm glad Vigilante and Harcourt didn't die, although I appreciated that we felt the danger that they could. So it's a good balance. It's like, I always say, your show does not need to kill people off left and right to have stakes. You can even do death fake outs and still have stakes as long as you've established the threat is real. Like. And they did that. They killed off Myrn, and that set the stakes that any of them could die. And no one else did, but we still felt the danger, and that's what really matters. As long as the danger is felt by the audience, you can follow through or not. You just have to
Mhm.
maintain that credibility through the end of your project.
Yeah,
So, and they did.
absolutely. And
But
yeah, I agree. I think the series did a really good job of just tying everything up in a nice bow and package. I guess that's cool. That's renewed. I think my vision
mhm.
in my head, my head canon would just be Peacemaker transitions into a different series with someone else as
Okay.
like, maybe the sidekick or like, I don't know. But I'm happy with whatever direction they're taking us now. And yeah, agree with Dylan. Great series.
Yeah.
Recommend if you have not watched it. I'm probably going to rewatch it
I'll
at some
rewatch it at
point
some
soon.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, great show. Hearty recommendation. Let's talk about other stuff. What have you been watching the last couple weeks?
Yeah. So, like I was saying earlier, per the recommendation of my sister, I started watching Young Justice. It's an animated TV show set in the DC universe, and it's kind of the junior Justice League. So
Mhm.
it's got Aqualad, Kid Flash, Martian Girl, um, Robin. I'm missing someone. But anyways, it's fun so far. I'm
Yeah.
like 10 episodes in, and they're like bite sized. They're like 20 minutes,
Right.
and like it is kind of classic like animated DC fun where it's
Mhm.
just like, oh, they always kind of win every time, and the bad
Yeah.
guys limp away with their legs or with their tail between their leg. It's like that's kind
Mhm.
of fun. But I know that they're building to something more, and I'm just more kind of interested to see how the characters grow and change over
Yeah.
time, and the introduction of other ones. Like, I know that Beast Boy is going to show up at some point, and
Okay.
some other ones. So it's just gonna be a fun time, and I can't wait to talk to my
Yeah.
sister about it too.
Cool.
And otherwise, just been kind of trucking along with The Sopranos as well. Not too much new content lately that I've been watching, but The Sopranos is very new to me, and we're almost done with the second season. And ooh, bada bing! It is it
Yeah.
is something else. It's a bunch of gabagool, and it's wonderful. I love it.
Nice.
And it, like we were talking about earlier too with Chris's father,
Mhm.
just casually throwing around all these bigoted slurs. Oh, it's happens all the time in The Sopranos, and it is fucking. Ooh, it takes you aback for a second, or it's like, oh my god, that was a really outdated slur for a black person. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah. And also The Sopranos is older, so they, I would imagine, are maybe a little bit less thoughtful about the included slurs, or no?
Well, it was like early 2000s
Early
ish.
2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, it was around that time, late, yeah, somewhere around that time. But I mean, it's absolutely like these people aren't heroes, obviously. Like,
Right.
you're supposed to kind of like have this emotional connection to them, but at the end of the day, they're horrible people.
Mhm.
And that absolutely is coming across, and they don't have very great lives ultimately. So it's a little bit complicated, and I think the inclusion of those terms is definitely just to give it a like well-rounded perspective. Just this is what reality is. It's not
Gotcha.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But that's it for me lately. What about you, Dylan? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been playing Lost Ark a lot. It's a Diablo style MMO.
Right.
It's been out in the East for I think like 3 years, but it just launched in Europe and America like last week. I played like 25 hours of it. It's pretty fun. And I this afternoon actually I went to see Uncharted.
Ooh, how
It
was that?
was very okay. It
That's
was
exactly what I was expecting you to say.
yeah, like Tom Holland, I could see growing into the character pretty well. But I think everyone's reaction to Mark Wahlberg's casting being weird and wrong was accurate. There is not a fucking semblance of the character of Victor Sullivan in that performance. Like, what the hell? like Sully is kind of like charming, has like a twinkle in his eye a little bit, and none of that is there. It's just like, and I don't even dislike Mark Wahlberg as a performer. I think he's fine in the right roles. He's good, but like this is horrible casting. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah,
And
I remember you telling me about that, and absolutely agreeing.
mhm.
I really haven't played the Uncharted game, so I'm not as super familiar with it
Yeah.
as other people are. But
Mhm.
yeah, I having not played the games at all, I knew that was the wrong casting choice.
Mhm. Yeah, and Antonio Banderas is in the movie, who is horribly underused. And even he would have made a better Sully. Like Sully needs
Hmm.
charm, and like wit.
Yeah.
And that's I don't think that's Mark Wahlberg's strength as an actor.
No, not for Marky Mark, I'd say.
Yeah, but that's it for me for this point in time. So we'll
Well, cool.
we'll call it a day here. I think next episode, it's 2 weeks from now, we're doing the Batman. Matt Reeves is the Batman. So stay tuned for that. And until then, Niles, where can people find you online?
People can follow me on Instagram at Niles Got No Styles. That's it for now. But Dylan, where can people follow you?
On Twitter at D-Day Movies, on Instagram at DylanD1026, on YouTube, D-Day Movies, and on Twitch at D-Day_movies. And that is all the places. Thank you all for watching and or listening. If you liked the episode, please leave us a nice 5-star review on your audio platform of choice. Like the YouTube video, comment, we'll respond probably. And yeah, that's it. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.